Before you slip into unconsciousness, I'd like to have another kiss, another flashing jet.
Good evening, America. This is Elliot Rosewater for the KPXI Radio, the only nuclear-powered radio station on God's green earth. At the attic. That's where it is, yes. A little studio. It's also the home of Jim Morrison. Accoutrement, memorabilia. All of the history of Morrison is in here because the podcast is called the Crystal Ship Podcast, named after one of his songs. And the author, Alan Graham, has his books here. They have 3 books, a book of verse, a book about Liverpool before the Beatles were famous, and then, of course, I remember Jim Morrison 2, T-O-O. And the reason it's T-O-O is because, 60, maybe 70 people have attempted to write the definitive biography. And actually, all of them say the same thing because no information was available ever until I started telling about inside of the family that I knew about. And the rest was speculation and supposition because actually Jim told everybody that his parents were dead. And as a matter of fact, to him they were, because his father turned him into the FBI and said he's no longer in college and therefore he's not going to work in the movie industry, like we send him to college, so therefore go get him. Well, he had a legitimate job, a struggling musician, but his father did not believe in that, and so he sent the FBI after him. So Morrison hid out under a tarp. He lived on a roof in Venice. He ate out of a food dumpster. Became like a leader because the kids around him were all, like 17, 18. He was 21, so he kind of was like a very intelligent man and a leader of the gang. And so that's the way he lived. Now, tonight we're broadcasting from the Crystal Ship Podcast. That's the black light, that's the Crystal Ship, well, that's what I call it. And we're surrounded by the stories and Alan Graham's stories. And also tonight we're launching a new line of tie-dyes, back to the 60s. Gives you a great feeling. By the way, I am Al Graham. I'm also Elliot Rosewater. I'm also Reverend Al Graham. I'm also, myriad personalities, and I pull them out whenever I need them. And today, I'm going to be talking about something interesting to me anyway. And that's what happened to Jim Morrison in Paris. He died, said the doctor. He died, said the doctor. He died of a heart stopped. No autopsy, very suspicious. The truth is this: his girlfriend Pamela, in the last days, the last 3 years of his life, was worried that she would be left penniless and that he would burn up all the money and when he died, she'd have nothing. It was constantly on her mind. The moment she met us coming off the plane in 1968, she took Jim's sister into the bedroom and showed her a will. It was written on a turned out inside out envelope, and it said, if I die, Pamela Curzon gets everything. And if she dies, everything goes to my brother and his sister Anna. And my wife, Anna at the time, you could see she just wanted to kill Pamela. We'd come all the way from England to see him, and she was talking about his death. Well, it was on her mind because he wrote about death. He constantly was drinking. There was a Paul about him that, would give one in that impression. But she was missionary. All she talked about was the money she was going to get or didn't get or would not get. So anyway, in the end, he was burned out from the road, burned out from the band, burned out from her because she was a heroin addict and it broke his heart. He never saved the girl who he fell in love with on the beach. A smart, intelligent, loved his poetry, was a big promoter of him. She was a little groupie, of course, 14, and she hung around the band. And finally, Jim adopted her, kind of, And she became his girlfriend, then she became a nagging girlfriend, then she became a constant source of conflict between he and the Doors. She would always tell him, you better get away from these guys. You're the guy with the poetry. Actually, she was very right about it. She was absolutely right about that. And Jim did write most of the songs, people don't know that. But he also was one of, one for all and all for one. And he said to the band, look, I'll sign the pact. I will not put my name on any of this. I will say it was written by the Doors, and we'll all share the profits. But if anything ever happens to any one of us, we all agree that we'll take care of each other, right? Right, was the echo. When he came to Miami and he got in trouble, they abandoned him, sued him, and when he said he was going to go off and start his own band, they sued him for the name, the Doors. So he said to them, this is the end, my only friend, the end. Because he took his name and put it on all his records from then on. It was words and music by Jim Morrison, not the Doors. And they got cut out of it because they never wrote, Robbie wrote a couple, but he stole them. And they were cut out of it. The bulk of the estate went back to Pamela when Jim died. She got all the money. She came to LA after burying him 3 days. And then he was buried without telling us, without telling anyone. And she rushed back to Los Angeles to get lawyers to get the money, and eventually she got the money. But then she died of an overdose of heroin, and it all came back, well, at least half of it came back to the family, which is the total irony. Had she just said, I was his girlfriend and I want palimony, she would have gotten a nice chunk. Instead, she was greedy, and her parents were greedy, and the lawyers were greedy, and they all got bupkis, as the Jewish people say. Nothing. Well, the parents got, half of Jim's estate because they claimed she was his wife. So, but in the end, justice prevailed. What happened in Paris was she knew a lot of heroin addicts, and in particular Marianne Faithfull, the rock star, and a guy called the Count, and they delivered some pure, 89% pure Marseille heroin, which is a lot different from what Americans get. And so she told Jim that this is wow, man, you gotta try this. Well, he hated needles, he was phobic. And so she said, well, you gotta snort it. It's the best sex you'll ever have. And he didn't say, how'd you know? He just wanted to be a hero, I guess. He went to the bathroom, took a hit of it. Before he hit the floor, he was dead. They picked him up, and like every other night before, well, he's just drunk, we'll take him home. They took him home, and they put him in the bathtub to revive him. And we didn't know what happened until later. 3 in the morning, she calls the police, or 4 in the morning. I don't know, maybe it was even later. She claimed that she went back to bed, saw him in the bathtub. He said he'd be fine. She went back to bed and woke up 5 hours later, and he was dead, stiff as a board in the bathtub. Called the police. I think it was 2 hours later after she found him, which gave her time to get all of her cronies, Agnes Varda and the French director too, was involved in it. They came up with this story that Jim had, woke up after that drunk. They picked him up, put him in bed, but then he woke up in the night saying he wasn't feeling good. He was going to take a bath. Not so, because later on, with my investigation, I got the death scene photographs, and there was Jim Morrison. Oh yes, he was in the bath, all right, but his head was laying against the giant faucets. Have you ever taken a bath with your head against the faucet? No, you have not. Unless you were in it with somebody else and they were down the other end. So we knew he was placed there, which is what you do when someone trying to revive someone. So anyway, she got all the money, she died, and that was the end of that. The Doors died too because they tried to revive the whole thing. It did not work. It was awful. Ray Manzarek sounded like Quasimodo when he sang, and so they got a couple of frontmen who sang awful, and it was a shadow of its former self. And anyway, it didn't matter because people all over the world didn't know that it wasn't Jim Morrison. They took it on the road and they beat it to death. And that's what happened. And then Ray Manzarek died, and when he died, the band really ended because he was always the one behind it, trying to keep it alive, trying to make money, always in trouble with the estate, always in trouble with somebody. He never paid anybody for anything. Had a wretched life after that. Tried several times to say Jim was talking to him from Australia and then wasn't really dead. Wrote a couple of terrible books, made several terrible albums. And that was the end of that. But it didn't die for Jim Morrison and the original music. It's alive to this day. 60th anniversary coming up. People flock from all over the world to his grave site in Paris on his death day. And there you have it. That's the end of the story, but it's actually the beginning of the story, because my book, I'm happy to say, is published in English and in French. And today I got the word that my publisher in Mexico City, Israel, has finished the translation, so I will be in 3 languages. And Jim Morrison, the word about Jim Morrison, the truth about Jim Morrison will be told in 3 languages. And there you have it, Al Graham for the Crystal Ship podcast, with the episode about the death, the true life story of Jim Morrison. And tomorrow we're going to be getting in new merchandising, mugs, t-shirts, tote bags, all with David Levine's art, which is all of this here. David was a photographer in the Miami arena when Jim was arrested, took pictures, even testified in court. In fact, if you look in the back of my book, I Remember Jim Morrison Too, you find a whole story about him, how just an interesting railroading that happened to Jim at that trial, because he did not do what they said. However, there was a fervent movement led by Anita Bryant, the Orange Juice Queen. Jackie Gleason even got in on it, and a bunch of other moralists said, oh, we're going to have a decency rally. Jim Morrison was banned from playing big venues. He couldn't get arrested. Ironic. But a year later, they came back even stronger. And Jim knew it was time to go, and he quit. He went to Paris. And when he got to Paris, a weird thing happened. One of the last albums that he made hit #1 again. Oh my God. Roadhouse Blues, LA Woman, all the great songs, Riders on the Storm, it just blew the record industry out of the water because no one expected it. He was gone, band was ended. Boy, oh boy. And the Doors called him up and said, Jim, come back, man. All that stuff you wrote when you left is great. And Jim said to them, I don't think I'm going to come back, but if I do, will you see the stuff I have written now? And they all went, ah. But he never came back, because a little while later, he died. Or did he die? And that's the myth that goes around to this day. And that's why he's so alive. That's why he will not die, no matter what anyone does, including me. But my job, that I see it, is to keep him alive and keep telling the stories that are real, not the fake ones you hear from all of the books that come out with all this speculation about what really Jim Morrison was like, because nobody really knew what Jim Morrison was like. The only way you'll find out is read my book. And there you have it. We went long. It's a 12-minute, it's a 13-minute podcast at the KPXI radio station, the only nuclear-powered radio station on God's green earth. And as we end this out, David Levine will put on some music on the front and on the back of this podcast. And that will be the end of it. Good night, America, and good luck.
Before you slip into unconsciousness, I'd like to have another kiss, another flashing jet.